Hello and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. We are super excited to be with you on your first day of service and glad to have you joining this webinar. Introductions, pop on my video for a second. Okay, yeah. Hello, my name is Chris Hawks. I'm joined today by Andy King. Hey, Andy. Oh, Andy can't, sounds like you're on mute still, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I was muted in two places. So this is Andy, and Chris and I are your hosts today from AmeriCorps. You'll also see our colleagues Gina, Larry, Catherine, and Charles, who will be in the chat and Q&A to support and assist you throughout the presentation, along with our webinar support team. So look for them for their assistance.
Yeah, and we are also very thrilled to have a very special guest with us today. So let me welcome the director of AmeriCorps VISTA, Meg and Sarah, who joins us to give you a welcome on behalf of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. So, hey, Meg.
Hey, Chris. Thank you so much for letting me join. It is such an honor to be here. And it's just so wonderful to have a chance to welcome all of you to the AmeriCorps VISTA program. And I also wanted to share a few words about the role, sort of a bit on the history and the role that VISTA plays in this moment in time. So first of all, you are joining a very special program. You're going to learn more about the history very soon, but VISTA was started in 1964 as a part of President Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society, which was a set of social programs and legislation aimed at addressing poverty, inequality, and injustice in America, all things that continue to drive VISTA members and the VISTA program today. What started as a program with initially 24 volunteers who were ages 21 to 71 now has more than 225,000 alums. Just like you, each VISTA member started their first day of service and then gave a year of their lives to make a difference in the lives of others. Now those very same VISTA members are elected members of Congress and state legislators, founders of nonprofits, business leaders, and even authored the Game of Thrones books. You never know what lies ahead for you. A lot has happened over the last 55 years since VISTA's founding, and that has everything to do with the incredible people who are a part of this program. For some of you, this may be your first introduction to AmeriCorps or VISTA, but chances are you've encountered or may have even benefited from something that was either started or made better by a past VISTA. Initiatives that trace their founding to VISTA include Head Start, Job Corps, legal services, and community action programs. But enough about the past. Let's talk about the here and now. You don't need me to tell you that we are truly living through extraordinary times. None of us could have predicted our current reality, a worldwide pandemic that has now claimed the lives of almost 800,000 Americans and touched countless other family members. Climate change and a deepening divide between the haves and have-nots. And yet here we are. With so many individuals, families, and children suffering right now, this is where you and the amazing work of AmeriCorps VISTA comes in. I firmly believe that the VISTA program was made for this moment, to work in partnership with communities to concretely help people in need and to build community capacity in ways that will continue to live on. Each of you is here for a different reason, but all of you have answered the call to serve and to do so during a most critical time in our history. You have stepped up and decided to serve those who are in greatest need. You are all meeting the moment and giving so much in the process. VISTA is built on the belief that the talent, solutions, and potential for positive change exist within communities already, and that through your VISTA service, you can help to further catalyze, to unlock that strength and capacity of the communities that you serve. For many of you, this will be your home community. As you embark on what I hope is a powerful and transformative year for you, few quick words of advice. First, you are part of a bigger movement to fight against poverty. While sometimes that may be hard to see, know that you and hundreds of other VISTA members are making a difference in communities and the lives of individuals all over the nation. Also, please be sure to take care of yourself. Rely on your friends, and particularly your VISTA community, for advice, for support, and fun. This work truly is a marathon and not a sprint, and you can't help others if you're not on solid ground yourself. Finally, I know that you will accomplish amazing things during your VISTA term of service, and I hope that it will ultimately lead to a lifetime of service. Service can take many different forms, but throughout it all, I hope that you continue to realize your own amazing potential as a positive change maker, as well as recognizing that same potential in others. That truly is the VISTA spirit. It is my sincere pleasure to officially welcome you to the VISTA family and the ranks of AmeriCorps, which is now more than 1 million people strong. Thank you so much for your service and good luck. Back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Meg. Thank you so much for the very inspiring welcome, and it's great to hear the positive words and the very true words you shared, and the great welcome for our soon-to-be newest class of AmeriCorps VISTA members. So thanks so much, Meg.
So let's take a look at our agenda for today. We'll talk a bit about how VISTA began in the 1960s, as Meg mentioned. We'll cover a few pieces of your orientation phases. We'll discuss your service assignments, review a few resources, and then we'll officially swear you in to your federal AmeriCorps service. Here is an overview of our session as we go through that agenda. First and foremost, we've asked you to log in again today so that you can continue to build connections with us here at AmeriCorps headquarters, and we'll swear you in officially in just a few minutes. We know that this webinar is also a great way for you to meet other new AmeriCorps members and to start to build connections with your colleagues across the country. We'll take some time today to reinforce some of the important details of your AmeriCorps service. And finally, we want you to leave today's webinar with a really good sense of where you can find more answers to the questions that you may have. So Chris, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. It is a pleasure to give you this official welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA, and of course, to wish you a very happy first day of service. So now let's start by taking a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that led us to this moment. VISTA is, at its core, a program that expands economic opportunity to help Americans escape poverty. And as complex as poverty is, we know that it takes a wide variety of strategies and dedicated community members to fight it. We look forward to hearing how you and your VISTA project will work on expanding economic opportunity in your community. VISTA was born out of the civil rights movement and the war on poverty in the mid-1960s, and we remain passionate about the ideals that founded the program and committed to keep investing in and lifting up all communities in this country. Our first VISTAs were assigned in 1965. They served in Appalachia, in Hartford, Connecticut, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. And at the VISTA program launch, President Lyndon Johnson said to those first VISTAs, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation." And the dedication of VISTA members really remains a great hope for this country. We know that VISTA alone can't fix the systemic barriers and oppression that exist for people in poverty, especially people of color, but we know our work can be a part of any possible solution.
All right, so here you see this graphic illustrating the AmeriCorps VISTA program structure that we looked at during last week's webinar. You can see the AmeriCorps headquarters there on the left, with the AmeriCorps regional offices next. And within those regional offices, AmeriCorps awards VISTA projects to sponsoring organizations, those nonprofits and public agencies that tackle poverty in a variety of projects and within diverse communities. Within that organizational structure, VISTA members, the project staff, the sponsoring organizations, and AmeriCorps staff work together to accomplish these types of results. So in the last year, VISTA members raised over $199 million in cash and in-kind donations for their sponsoring organizations. VISTA members recruited, trained, and assigned over 450,000 community volunteers who collectively served more than 3.2 million hours. Likewise, the VISTA members made it possible for their sponsoring organizations to serve some 2 million children living in poverty in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance with food security. Programs supported by VISTA members supported 373,000 total individuals through opioid programming. And in a single year, over 8,000 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofits and public agencies. And this is just a snapshot of 1 year of AmeriCorps VISTA service. We're so proud to support this work around the country.
And let's take a look at the sponsoring organizations. So in the last year, there were 832 sponsoring organizations managing 849 AmeriCorps VISTA projects. Together, the sponsors and project staff placed VISTA members at over 5,000 service sites in 1 year. Of all VISTA service sites, in general, about 15% represent rural communities and 85% represent urban communities. And it's very important to know that there are different types of AmeriCorps VISTA project structures. So some projects place all VISTA members at a single nonprofit or agency. Those are called single site projects. Makes sense. By contrast, about 16% of projects place members at multiple sites or offices. So they have multiple branches, for instance. And then there's a third project model, which we call an intermediary. And that's an organization that manages all of the administrative aspects of the AmeriCorps award and then subcontracts with more than one nonprofit organization to recruit, to train, and manage VISTA members at multiple locations. The project models are important because they really do have a pretty big impact on every aspect of your VISTA service. So we want to get a sense of the type of projects represented today. So we want to know, are you serving in a single site project, a multi-site project, or through an intermediary? So you should see a poll pop up to ask. Should be popping up, yep, about right now. You can see several answering. If for any reason you can't view the poll, please, by all means, you can type your answer in the chat as to whether you're serving at a single site, multi-site, or intermediary. Give it a couple seconds. Quick reminder, in that intermediary, because there's always questions on that. That's the project model where an organization manages the administrative aspects of the award, but really subcontracts with multiple nonprofit organizations. So that's kind of the difference from them and the multi-site. Okay, looks like the responses are slowing down. See a couple in the chat. Thank y'all for responding. So let's close the poll and see where we're at. So yeah, not a great surprise. Looks like single site is right around 60%. This kind of pretty closely aligns with the average. And then there's a not sure, of course. About 24 respondents mentioned they're not sure, and at this point, that's totally okay. At this point, you may not know the answers to this question, but one reason we bring it up on this webinar is because if you aren't sure, please add it to the list of questions for your supervisor this week to make sure you are completely aware of your project design, your staffing structure, and the organizational requirements, because it does make a difference in your VISTA experience to know this.
So as you know, VISTA's mission is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. In supporting this mission, there are 4 key program principles that apply to all VISTA members' service. First is ending poverty. Every VISTA project and every VISTA member aim to end or alleviate poverty, one person, one family, or one neighborhood at a time. Next is empowering communities. VISTA members live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out their projects. This is often facilitated by VISTA project sponsors, and we all work together to strengthen and improve communities. This is the VISTA program's long-term goal through learning about values and beliefs and applying good community development principles. Next is creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, whether it's a process, a system, or other types of resources, you will develop them in such a way that people will be able to use them once your VISTA service ends. And finally is building capacity. All VISTA members will either increase the size of a project, increase the number of people that are served, improve the project's efficiency, or improve the project's impact on the community. So these are all ways that we define capacity and how we think about evaluating the success of our projects and the VISTA members. So let's take a few minutes now to hear from you. In the chat, please answer these questions. Which of the key principles resonates most deeply with you? And if you would, say a word or two about why. So maybe it's ending poverty and taking down all of the policies and systems that perpetuate it. Or maybe it's empowering the community as a passion of yours through working with community stakeholders to identify needs and then putting those needs into action with the help and support of the community. Or maybe sustainability is something that drew you to joining AmeriCorps. Maybe you have an eye for processes and developing them in a way that they can be used once your AmeriCorps service comes to an end. Or maybe it's capacity building that's the heart of who you are and what you do. Maybe you see a project and you can immediately identify a plan to increase its effectiveness and engage more individuals. So I see many of you have been commenting in the chat already, and there's a real mix here. It's great to see the diversity of interest and angles and perspectives from which you all are coming. But it sounds like, or it looks like, from what I can see quickly, empowering community is coming up again and again. Building capacity shows up a lot as well. And a number of you have mentioned more than one of the key principles, which is great because it's sometimes hard to pick just one. So thank you for sharing those. And it's nice to see, a few of you took a moment to talk about the why behind the response that you gave. And it's really nice to see some of your thinking and what really is passionate for you and what really motivates you in your service. So thank you for your responses so far. If you are still sending yours, please go ahead and do that, and we'll continue to read those as we go on. The good thing is that all of the principles here are important, and all of them are going to become useful in your VISTA service. And the fact that one or more of these resonate with you shows that you're a good fit with VISTA. And hopefully as you look at what you'll be doing in your service, you'll be able to pinpoint certain activities that touch on some or all of these key principles. As you probably know, progress in this type of work can be incremental, and it can feel like it's very slow going. So it's important to know that our work isn't just about fixing stuff, it's about sharing perspectives and skills. The results of your work as a VISTA member may not be apparent immediately, but once you step back, you'll be able to see the larger changes that have resulted from your work and see the impact of your service.
Next up, let's focus now on that fourth one, on capacity building and really what it looks like. So capacity building really can be a hard concept to define and really describe to others. So we know it's important that we all share a common understanding of this key principle. In the VISTA mission and program tutorial that you completed, you learned that your VISTA service should really focus on building the capacity of your organization and not focus on performing direct service. This is a unique aspect of the VISTA program, which sets us apart from other AmeriCorps programs. Now, quickly, capacity building, in essence, is about helping your organization do more with what they have so they can serve more people or operate more efficiently. Direct service is about providing tangible assistance directly to those who need it. So to make sure you really understand and kind of have a good feel for what we're talking about, we're going to play a quick little round of what we call this or that to really explore the differences between capacity building and direct service. So for this activity, we will ask that you type your answer in the chat as to whether your answer is capacity building or direct service, and that could be just the initials CB or DS if you wish. So we're going to start with this first one. So let's take a look. So recruiting volunteers to build houses. So in the chat, please indicate whether you think this is capacity building or direct service. So you can see the responses coming in. Looks overwhelming CB, but see some direct service thrown in here and there. It's not 100%. I see it was Denise who mentioned both. Okay, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. That's okay. That's why we're here. Give it another couple seconds, make sure everyone gets their response, and seeing some more direct service pop in now, evening out a bit. Okay, so let's take a look at the correct response. Now here, the correct response is capacity building. So the majority of you got that correct. Great job. And that's because in this scenario, you are not directly building the house. You're developing capacity by recruiting volunteers who will then be able to do the construction work as well as engage with the organization in other ways.
All right, so how about delivering meals to seniors or people with disabilities in their homes? Is this capacity building or direct service? And it looks like it's pretty uniformly, almost unanimous in the responses so far. So we'll give it another few seconds to see if we see any variation here. But I'm not really seeing much. So yeah, I think it's pretty unanimous. Let's go ahead and reveal the answer, which so far all of you have gotten as direct service, right? And so in this case, it is direct service because you'd actually be picking up food and delivering it to people, right? In contrast, if you wanted to think about capacity building activities that a VISTA member could do for this kind of a program, that could include things like working to improve the efficiency or the effectiveness of the meal delivery program, or perhaps putting together policies and procedures, or maybe developing partnerships to help out with food delivery. All right, so good work there.
Okay, how about teaching a financial literacy course to low-income individuals? Again, capacity building or direct service. Taking a look, the chat is flying, and it does look overwhelming DS here. although not quite as overwhelming as the previous question. I did see a couple capacity building thrown in, but definitely looks, I'll say 91.8% are saying DS. So let's check it out. Let's see the correct answer. The correct response is direct service. Great job. And this is because this example involves hands-on educating individuals. So in contrast, some capacity building activities that a VISTA would do would be something like developing the curriculum for the financial literacy course, or connecting with other organizations who can then refer clients to take the course, or maybe identifying financial literacy experts to advise in the curriculum development. Those would be the capacity building side of things.
All right, so here's our last example. What do you think about organizing a fundraiser? Would that be capacity building or direct service? And wow, you are fast. Look at those answers coming in so quickly. Looks like a lot of capacity building, a couple both, and a couple of direct service mentions in there as well. But it looks like, you know, the majority, I don't know if it's 89% or 93% say capacity building. But there's, a notable number of folks saying that it's either direct service or it's both. So let's go ahead and reveal the answer to that. And the correct response here is capacity building. And the reason we say that is because, at least in our view, the act of raising money, raising resources, is building capacity. The money raised actually builds the resources of the organization so that it can do its work. So I want to thank you for all your responses on all these scenarios. And we hope that this quick and simple exercise provides a clear distinction for you between what we mean when we talk about capacity building and direct service. Okay, a quick check back on our agenda. So far, we've reviewed some of the important aspects of the VISTA program to help you build out your understanding and your ability to answer the question, what is VISTA, which invariably you'll get asked. And next, we'll quickly review several key tasks that you need to complete during your VISTA member orientation. So here's another look at the structure of your VISTA member orientation, or as we call it, your VMO. As we mentioned last week, there are 3 phases, and whether you're physically on-site or teleserving, the structure is the same. As a reminder, you are invited to participate in an online name-based criminal history background check prior to starting service. If you have not yet submitted the information for that background check, or if you did not even get the email giving you the instructions on how to complete it, then we ask you to please contact the criminal history check team. That email is VISTA Fingerprint, just singular, VISTA Fingerprint @cns.gov. And as kind of a refresher from last week, here we have a couple of review questions regarding your benefits. In just a second, a poll is going to open and you'll be asked to indicate true or false. This will be a quick poll. And so for this first question, true or false, federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. So, and you guys, very quick in responding. We've got more than half of the answers in already. And if you've made your selection, be sure to click the submit button so that your answer gets tabulated. All right, looks like the majority of you have responded, so we'll go ahead and end the poll here and publish the results. Looks like 91% of you got it right. The correct answer is true. Federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. And remember, you're responsible to determine if you will owe state taxes by checking in with your local tax preparer or check the website for your state tax office. All right, we've got a couple more questions for you.
Okay, this one will be a chat response. So please take a moment to fill in the blank. If you originally elect the Education Award, you may change to the cash stipend at any time before the end of your blank month of service. So respond in the chat. Again, try to toggle it to everyone when you're responding. Can already see a bunch of responses coming in. I see a bunch of 10 or 10th. I see last month, a question mark, another last. Looks overwhelmingly 10, 19th. I'm wondering if that was a typo. If either way, it's hilarious, Ralph. And a few don't knows and question marks. That's okay. That's why we're reviewing. So let's check out the response. Correct response is 10th. So the majority of you did get that correct. Great job. And remember, the reverse is not true. If you select the cash stipend, that's final. You can't change it after you start. But if you select the Education Award, you have up until the end of your 10th month to change to the cash stipend. So yeah, we have one more for you.
All right, so you'll see another poll appear on your screen, another yes/no question. If you currently have or have completed enrollment in other primary health coverage outside of AmeriCorps, then the healthcare allowance is for you. Again, if you already have health coverage, then you can sign up for the AmeriCorps healthcare allowance, yes or no. So we've got looks like 40% of you have responded. The number's going up. And there's a bit of a mix. You'll see in a minute when we reveal the poll results, where it comes out. I'll give you let's see, 8 more seconds to get your response in. About 2/3 of you have already submitted. All right, so let's go ahead and close the poll and we'll see what the answer is. So it looks like most of you said yes, almost 65% of you said yes, and that is the correct answer. So if you already have coverage, then you can sign up for the healthcare allowance. And if you're still not sure about the plan options that are available, we remind you to look at the specific details of the VISTA healthcare benefits, and you can find that information on the VISTA campus. And that way you'll know which benefit will apply to your situation. Okay, so thanks for your responses to those questions. Seeing where you are with these will be helpful in us as we select questions to answer during our Q&A portion later on.
Now let's talk about some important issues that you learned about in the Civil Rights and Responsibilities course that you took on the VISTA campus. The AmeriCorps VISTA program takes very seriously the issues of discrimination and harassment. So we want to make sure you're all aware of your rights as well as your responsibilities. As you learned, discrimination is when receiving treatment that is different because of a difference in sex, race, or any other protected class. Harassment is behavior that is severe or pervasive and creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. If you believe that you have experienced or witnessed discrimination or harassment, and if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, here are the steps you should take. First, approach and talk directly to the person you suspect of engaging in harassing or discriminating behavior. If that does not work, or if you do not feel safe and comfortable doing so, you should speak with your supervisor. If you cannot go to your supervisor, or maybe you do and the matter is not resolved to your satisfaction, then you should contact your AmeriCorps regional office. Remember, that's the state initials at cns.gov to contact your AmeriCorps regional office. And finally, you can contact the AmeriCorps Equal Opportunity Program, or EOP. Rights go hand in hand with responsibilities. So while you have the right to a service experience that is free from harassment and discrimination, you also have the responsibility not to subject anyone to harassment or discrimination. So please be conscious of how your words and actions might be perceived by others, whether those are other AmeriCorps members, maybe staff at your site, or even community members. And as a reminder, the contact information you see on the slide for the EOP, or AmeriCorps Equal Opportunity Program, that contact information is also included in the VISTA member handbook, which is on AmeriCorps.gov, so you can access that at any time on AmeriCorps.gov through the handbook. And AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to, and spending money wisely. Like all federal agencies, AmeriCorps has an Inspector General whose office is responsible for preventing and detecting waste, fraud, and abuse. Most VISTA sponsors are familiar with the rules around allowable service activities and those that are prohibited, and it is important for all of us to pay close attention to these. So there are a few red flags that we want to point out so that you're aware and be on the lookout for. First, if you are being asked to take over the work of a staff person, say someone who is out on extended leave, that is considered replacing staff, and it's not allowed in VISTA. Or if most of what you're doing is administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member. You should be focusing on the things outlined in your VAD, or your VISTA Assignment Description, which ties directly to the overall project plan that was approved by AmeriCorps. Finally, the majority of your work should be capacity building, not direct service. From your coursework and from today's activities, where the vast majority of you got all of those questions correct, you should have a good idea of how to distinguish between the two, between capacity building and direct service. So please pay close attention and just follow up if you're maybe unsure about your service assignments. If you feel you're being asked to do things that are not appropriate for VISTA members, first talk about it with your supervisor. From there, you can speak with your AmeriCorps regional office. If the issue is not resolved, or if you wish to remain anonymous, you can contact the AmeriCorps Office of Inspector General with the information you see here on the slide. And similar to the last slide, again, this information is included in the VISTA member handbook if you ever need this contact information. So AmeriCorps.gov, you can find the VISTA member handbook to locate this contact information.
Okay, so now let's take another look at the in-service phase of your VISTA member orientation. Today, you're starting your on-site orientation and training, which we sometimes call OSOT, which is led by your supervisor and those at your project site. Also, there are several online tutorials that we ask all VISTA members to complete early in their service. They're self-directed, and they're intended to help you start strong in your project. All these courses are located at the end of the VISTA member orientation learning path that you joined on the VISTA campus. And by now, you've gone through most of the modules and activities there. And if you scroll down the learning path, you'll locate on-site orientation and training, and then recommended early service coursework. Those are the modules you will still need to complete as part of your orientation. First, under the on-site orientation and training module, we've provided a guide to help you make the most of your on-site orientation and training. Then you'll see 6 activities under the recommended early service coursework module. And there's a worksheet there to help you unpack your VISTA assignment description and use it as a foundation for your work plan for the year. The early service coursework includes a tutorial on how to understand the community you're serving in by looking at demographic data and research. The minute intro exercise helps you clearly and succinctly explain to others who you are and what you're doing as a VISTA member. The resource on theories of change looks at various ideas about what causes poverty and some of the theories on how to reduce or eliminate it. There's a helpful video explaining how poverty is measured in the United States. And finally, there's a powerful video that shares 13 lessons about poverty that came out of the VISTA program. The worksheets and resources there are intended to dovetail nicely with your on-site orientation and training. They can provide structure for the first few meetings with your supervisor. And I'll also mention that the worksheets are there for your own use. You don't need to turn them in. All right, so back to our agenda. Let's now turn our attention to your specific service and the document that rules it all, your VISTA Assignment Description, or VAD. As we discussed on last week's webinar, each member has a VAD that was created by the AmeriCorps VISTA project. You might have received it during the interview process, or maybe your AmeriCorps supervisor gave it to you today. If you don't yet have a copy, you can download it from your account in My AmeriCorps. All VISTA assignment descriptions include these three elements: a project goal, objectives, and member activities. The project goal is related to or is identical to the overall goal of your AmeriCorps VISTA project. The objectives describe what you will achieve by the end of your service year. They are a bridge between the project goal and the member activities. And the member activities specify what you will be doing this year. Those activities add up to the objectives, and the objectives add up to the goal. Now, because the VISTA assignment description is the starting point for you to develop your work plan for the year, we strongly recommend that you focus on it with your supervisor in the next few weeks, and you keep it in mind as you move throughout your whole year of service. It's not uncommon that some adjustments may need to be made to a VAD at some point during the year, whether to reflect new activities, which could be especially true given the current situation with coronavirus impacting so many parts of our lives. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, there's a VAD worksheet that's part of the early service coursework on the VISTA campus. That worksheet provides a really nice framework for you and your supervisor to discuss your tasks step by step.
We'd like to hear from you again. So based on what you know about your VISTA assignment description, or VAD, what will you be doing as an AmeriCorps member? So what steps, what tasks or activities will you be doing to help eradicate poverty and build capacity in your community and in your organization? So we'll ask that you respond in the chat, and again, and definitely for this response, please toggle it so that you're responding to everyone. That way everyone can see the responses. This is a really cool part where you get to see what your colleagues will be doing as an AmeriCorps member for the next 365 days. So let's see. And this can be you know, a few words or a couple sentences, as brief or as long as you'd like. And we'll give it some time for everyone to respond. See a bunch already coming in. It's one of my favorite parts, at least, to see this, see all the responses. So it looks like site coordination of mentors and mentees at an elementary school, working on housing stability. Let's see, helping LMIs increase energy literacy, building capacity at my site by identifying resources, expanding partners to reach more of the community. Here's The financial empowerment, grant writing, another grant writing, see, definitely a bunch of those. Write and award mini grants aimed at revitalizing neighborhoods affected by systematic poverty. Tech support. So many, won't be able to get through all of these, of course, but again, that's why we're encouraging you to toggle it for everyone. So you all can also get to read through some of these really good ones, so like helping with resource development for Habitat for Humanity affiliates, data collection, management, and data analysis, reducing chronic absenteeism in at-risk student populations, coordinating housing for refugees, improving students' food security, volunteer recruitment. Yeah, there will be a lot of that. Volunteer recruitment and grants writing, seeing quite a bit of that, in addition to a lot of mentions of work in the health related fields as well, healthy communities. These are great. Thank you. Thank you. Keep these coming. Sustainable community-based tourism, establishing a community garden with us and working with the youth, working on marketing, a lot of marketing as well. I'm seeing managing social media presence for my site and writing blog posts, emailing newsletters, and recruiting volunteers for an urban gardening nonprofit in Oakland. Wow, Aaliyah, doing a lot. Love it. Love the response. Yes, please keep these coming. I'll build a database of evidence-based practices for our site. Oh, too many to read out, but I love it. I love it. Thank you for these responses. And if you're still typing, you know, mid typing, please continue and type those out. It's really remarkable to see, you know, the wide variety of responses as well. You know, the different fields you'll be working in, and how much you'll be doing. It's exciting to know how much you'll be doing for the next year. So we know tons of really wonderful things mentioned in the chat here and still being mentioned in the chat. And we want to take that discussion a little bit further. So we want to talk about what happens as a result of your service. So for example, we have an example here. What if you plan a community meeting? If you bring people together around a common issue, what would be the impact of that activity?
And what if you write grant proposals? How would writing a grant actually make a difference in the community?
Or recruiting volunteers, which we saw several times just now. What if you recruit volunteers for your project? Why specifically is it important to have other people help with your project?
And what if you develop a lesson plan? We saw some of you talking about that, training development. What purpose would that lesson plan achieve, and how will it impact others within your community? So the big question we ask here is, what if? And we ask this because we want you to reflect on why it is you're serving. Taking time to think about the reason behind your activities and the purpose of the things you're doing will help you understand and stay focused on the intended impact of your AmeriCorps service. So think about your own what if when answering this next question. What impact do you hope to make as a VISTA member? And by impact, we mean what will be the end result rather than what will your activities look like, right? So what will happen in your community when you are successful? We ask you to please keep thinking about this question as you go into your service. Our work is never done, and you are part of the battle against poverty. And we're all in this together. So keeping the impact you can make in mind may help you get through the tough times when you feel that you may not be making a difference. And I see a number of you have been already able to put together your thoughts about what if and the why or the reason behind your service and what it is that you're going to accomplish. You know, and so a number of you have talked about what things will look like, that students will no longer be hungry, or that the program will be more effective than when I started, or that everyone will have an opportunity to participate in the community, making job training more accessible, that the organization will be more sustainable, reduced violence, families will have a supportive team to help with grief, access to economic help, more partners within the community. People will be healthier and more economically secure. So these are great. You all are really articulating what is that key bottom line reason, right? The whole purpose for what it is that you're going to be doing, and you're painting the picture for what things will look like when you are successful. So it's painting a brighter future, right? It's putting out there that image of what things will be when you've accomplished your work. So these are incredible. Keep them coming, please. I don't have the time to read through all of them, but I'll look at just a few more. Let's see. Greater access to economic resources within the community. Families will have access to educational and financial resources. Contributing to harm reduction programming, and the community will have stability and health. More students will graduate. Children will have an easier time learning. Students will feel confident about their decisions on higher education. All right, these are terrific. Thank you for all of those responses. Seeing your impact statements is really so inspiring, and hopefully it's helpful for you to see comments from your colleagues all over the country as well.
Yeah, I agree. Very inspiring. Love the comments. So thank you, everyone. So with all of those great outcomes and activities and projects and communities, all that were mentioned in the chat, with everything in mind, it's time to make you official AmeriCorps VISTA members. You may remember from the introductions in last week's Countdown to VISTA Service webinar that we are all located in different communities. Andy and I are working at home. Andy's in DC, myself in Maryland, very close to DC. And here's a quick look at where you and other AmeriCorps VISTA members are serving across the country. So we want you to imagine, if you will, everyone on this webinar, all of these AmeriCorps faces on screen with you when taking the oath, all of you together. And before we get to the oath, let's discuss the oath of service briefly. The oath of service is a required and important step in becoming an AmeriCorps member. And because of its importance, we're going to pause the chat for just a moment to focus on the oath. If you have any questions at this time, you can still type those in the Q&A, and our team will either answer them as soon as we can, or again, we can hold them for the end of the webinar.
So to document that you're taking the oath today, there's a very short form in the My AmeriCorps portal. It's good to know that it's a quick process, but we have a few instructions to help you complete the oath form accurately. So first of all, once we end today's webinar, so after the webinar finishes, you'll receive an automated email letting you know that your electronic oath has been unlocked, and you can go to my.americorps.gov to access it. At that time, go ahead and log into your My AmeriCorps account, and then complete and submit your form. If you don't see the email, say 15 minutes after we log off, you can go ahead and log into your account in My AmeriCorps and look for the form. One note, if you've already logged into My AmeriCorps, you will likely have to log out and log back in order for that form to appear. Secondly, the instructions for completing the oath form are really quite simple, and so it should be an easy step. But it must be done correctly. So we're going to go over these instructions a little bit slowly, and we feel it's worth a couple extra minutes here just to make sure you get it done right the first time. And finally, if anything is missing on the form or something's incorrect, it will delay your enrollment as an AmeriCorps member, and it could even impact your first living allowance payments. We don't want things to get that off track. As you know, if you don't get paid on time in the first go-round, it could take a couple weeks to correct that error. So, just to focus, it's a pretty simple task, and it has a lot of importance for your official enrollment in the program. So let's walk through the instructions. First of all, you'll see a field for the date of your first day of service at your project site. So whether you're teleserving or working at your organization, you're going to enter today's date. So that'll be 12/6/2021. And then for the name of the CNCS official who administered and witnessed the oath, you're going to enter Chris's name. So it's Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Hawks, H-A-W-K-E-S. Please take a note of the correct spelling to make sure that you type this into your oath form correctly. So you might want to just jot this down real quick or take a photo if you have your phone camera handy. So then in that third line there, where it says electronic signature, you're going to type your first and last name the way they appear in your account in My AmeriCorps. Beneath that, there's a checkbox, so you'll check that little box to verify that this is a legal signature on the electronic oath form, and then you'll click the Submit button. So it's pretty straightforward, right? Again, please make sure you capture these details and have them handy when we log off so that you'll be ready to do it when you go into your account in My AmeriCorps.
Okay, now that the logistics are out of the way, let's consider the oath you're about to take. Now, this is the same oath taken by all federal employees, up to and including the Vice President, whereas the President's oath is a little bit different. In the oath, it includes the phrase, to defend the Constitution of the United States. So if we look at the word defend, this is not a call to arms. In some positions, it very well may be. But for most of us, defense of the Constitution may be just the opposite of using arms. We're pledging to defend the document that contains our civil rights. It also includes the phrase, against all enemies. So if we look at the word enemies, in the context of VISTA, the enemy is poverty. And here you can see the original oath on the left side of the slide, along with an alternative version on the right side of your screen. The alternative provides two changes that you may prefer. First, you may replace the word swear with the word affirm, if you so choose. And you may omit the phrase, so help me God, at the end of the oath, if you'd like. And I want to recognize that since we're all in different locations around the country, scattered in so many sites and so many locations, that we don't have the benefit of hearing each other's voices as we recite this. But it is pretty cool to know that you're taking the oath right now with about 200 of your fellow AmeriCorps colleagues and members doing the same thing at the same time all across America. So we mentioned that because it may seem a little bit awkward, maybe if you're reciting the oath aloud and you're either alone in a room, or maybe you're at your site and there's a new colleague at your site, or maybe you're teleserving and you either have a family member or a roommate nearby. But please remember that we are all here, right here with you, supporting you, doing the exact same thing. So don't let it be awkward. We're here. So with that said, please raise your right hand and recite the oath along with me. Now, I am going, just beforehand, I am going to read the alternative version, and I'll just read it slowly and repeat after me. So, I do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So, woohoo! Yeah! You are officially an AmeriCorps VISTA member. Congrats! Felicidades! Congrats on joining the newest group of AmeriCorps VISTA members. I think you can hear my dog Joxer is screaming as well, saying congrats. Okay, so on this slide, as Andy mentioned, so as for the oath form, you see here a screenshot of what it will look like in the portal. Again, it's not there yet. It'll be about 15 minutes after the webinar, after we log off this webinar. But this screenshot just kind of shows where you'll be able to find it. Okay. And again, another reminder here on this slide to make sure you have the correct details. Just going to quickly review the electronic oath instructions that Andy just mentioned. So again, today is your official first day of AmeriCorps VISTA service, December 6, 2021. Type in my name, Chris Hawks, and that odd spelling with the E there, so H-A-W-K-E-S for Hawks, in the field labeled Name of CNCS or AmeriCorps official who administered the oath. Then you're going to type your name, first and last, as it appears in the portal. You don't have to enter your middle name. You can, if you have that in the portal, you can enter your middle name, but we need your first and last name as it is in the portal for number 3. Number 4, check the box under electronic signature to constitute the e-signature as your legal signature on the oath form. And then number 5, submit the oath no later than 11:59 p.m. your time today. And please note, we want to mention that you will not get a response confirming submission of the oath form, but you will be able to see the submitted oath in your My AmeriCorps account. The VMSU, or VISTA Member Support Unit, will contact you if we do not receive your oath form or if any corrections may be needed.
All right, so with you officially sworn in, we have just a few final agenda items to cover before we say farewell. As a reminder, the VISTA campus has a social site called VISTA Connect that you can use to reach out to your AmeriCorps colleagues and to share resources, discuss best practices, and share your experiences. To get there, you can click on the VISTA Connect icon that's located in the gray menu bar as you see illustrated here. And then once you're there on the Connect side, you can browse the recent community and group posts that appear on the home page, and you can check out the topics that are available. We have created a specific topic for new members that you can use as a starting point to connect with your colleagues who are also starting with you today. To access the topics, you can either click Explore at the top of the page you see illustrated there, and then select All Topics, or you can see there's a shortcut on the right-hand side of the home page. And while we're looking at this slide, please also make note here to join the members group. It's easy to do. You see all groups listed at the top under Explore. If you click there, you can join the members group where there will be additional topics available for you to browse and to post in. And when you click on all topics, you will see a list of several discussion threads from current and former VISTAs. And here in this slide, you'll see the topic where you can introduce yourself. It's called Welcome New VISTAs, and there's a bright blue icon to go with it to easily identify it. And once you click on that topic, you can begin posting and introduce yourself. It might be helpful to include where you'll be serving and a little bit about the kind of activities that you'll be working on. So we hope you'll be able to check this out after the webinar. And now let's talk briefly about identifying with other VISTA members and with the AmeriCorps program overall. One of the greatest things about being part of VISTA is showing off your AmeriCorps pride and connecting with other members. You never know where you may make a connection with someone who knows about the program. You can put the AmeriCorps logo on your business card, in your email signature, and on your organization's website and brochures. The more visible you are, the more support you may be able to get for your project and for the AmeriCorps VISTA program as a whole. And that could mean more AmeriCorps members and communities doing the work that needs to get done. On AmeriCorps.gov, you can find AmeriCorps logos, publications, and gear to use in your office to represent AmeriCorps in the field. We'll post a couple of links to those in the chat now. Thank you. And during your service, you'll receive instructions on how to order your free AmeriCorps gear. The free gear includes an AmeriCorps polo shirt, a lapel pin, a tote bag, a t-shirt, a water bottle, and a journal. The ordering instructions will come to you by email, so please make sure to keep your email address up to date in your My AmeriCorps account. And finally, we ask that you share any service stories or training photos with AmeriCorps and other AmeriCorps members through the AmeriCorps Twitter and Facebook accounts. We'd love to share your stories and retweet your photos.
And if you have any questions throughout your year, we strongly recommend reviewing the AmeriCorps VISTA member handbook that we also mentioned earlier. Now, the handbook is an excellent resource with detailed information about your VISTA service, your benefits, VISTA policies and procedures, and much more. And again, you can find the handbook on AmeriCorps.gov at any time during your year of service. And we'll drop a link in the chat actually as well right now to the handbook if you'd like to check it out. And looking a little further ahead as you settle into your AmeriCorps year, please be on the lookout for networks of current AmeriCorps members and alumni in your area. Now, they may be organized by AmeriCorps programs or state commissions, and you can find contacts at AmeriCorpsAlums.org. Along with building your AmeriCorps network, there will also be a number of training opportunities this year to help you continue to develop professionally. Our VISTA training unit staff deliver a series of monthly webinars for AmeriCorps VISTA members, leaders, project supervisors, and new sponsor staff. Upcoming webinars will be listed on the VISTA campus, on the VISTA campus calendar. And we'll also send out an email inviting you to register for topics you may be interested in. I know many of you will be busy next week with your on-site orientation and training and getting acquainted at your site, but we have a VISTA member webinar next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you, it's on digital fundraising, so if you'd like to check it out, you can go to the VISTA campus calendar to register. Just look for the date on December 15th. Okay, so please, again, webinar evaluation, we ask that you take a few moments to give us feedback on the webinar. We are constantly reviewing the content and we do try to make it better for new AmeriCorps members. So we want to hear your feedback. We want to know what worked, how can we improve it, and everything in between. So please just take a few moments to complete the brief survey. Shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. You see a link in the chat that Kim just shared. And similar to last week, it should also pop up as you close out of Zoom. Okay, next up, we'll take a few minutes to go over the answers to some of your questions. So we'll look at the Q&A pod to see what has come in. And Andy, I don't know if you had seen any, or it doesn't look to be too many in the queue. So a gentle reminder to everyone, if you have any questions, to submit those in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen.
Sure. So Chris, there were a few questions that came in earlier that got individual answers, but I think it might be helpful for us to review a couple of those with everyone. So there was a question about, earlier we did the little quiz about, true or false, federal taxes are withheld, but state taxes are not. And someone wrote in and said, well, hey, my supervisor just asked me to fill out a state tax form. What's that for? So the caveat there is if you are paid directly by your VISTA sponsor, and I think last week we talked about this, some of you are paid directly by us here at AmeriCorps headquarters, and others are paid by the organization where you're serving. So if you're paid by the organization where you're serving, their system may in fact withhold state income tax, and if so, they would have you fill out that form. So that's why that occurs. If you see that, if someone's asking you like, hey, fill out another W-4 and these other forms, even though you've done it in our system, if you're going to get paid by your sponsor, they'll need a set of forms from you as well. There were a couple of questions about loan forbearance. And again, just as a quick reminder, you won't be able to, so let me back up. If you select the Education Award as your end of service benefit, you have the option of putting federal loans into what we call national service forbearance. So during your service year, you don't have to make payment on those loans. And at the end of your service year, you can ask us to pay off any interest that accumulated during the year. And the question was, hey, I don't see where to do that. Well, it won't show up yet, right? We still have to get your oath form in and verify that everything else is in place. And then over the next couple of days, our team members in the VISTA Member Support Unit will be one by one going through and activating your account in the system. Once your account's activated, then that forbearance form will appear under the option for My Education Award. So at that time, you'll be able to submit your forbearance request, again, if you've selected the Education Award.
Thanks, Sandy. And a gentle reminder, I know we had that question about, if you select the Education Award, you can wait till the end of your 10th month of service to change to the cash stipend if you wish. So that gives you that flexibility. And just wanted to note that if that news changes your opinion, or if you're still on the fence and you had initially selected the cash stipend, and you want to change it, you can still change it today before you're activated, as Andy mentioned, before you get your oath in and we get all the paperwork squared away. If you want to change from the cash stipend to the Education Award or vice versa, you can still make that change in your My AmeriCorps account today. So just want to point that out. And also kind of going along with what Andy was mentioning with the forbearance part showing up probably like late this week or early next week. Also saw some other questions on with regards to the healthcare benefit. That's very similar. You're going to get an email regarding with instructions on how to sign up for your healthcare benefit. in about a week, probably early next week, you'll get that email. So there's a few things. There's also your service letters will be available to you in your My AmeriCorps account, your official service letters, should you need to show those to anyone. Those will be available in about a week as well. So a lot of those things will pop up as soon as your paperwork's in, your oath is in, and your account is activated. And also just saw a question in the chat on submitting hours. I think I saw that earlier as well. So not sure if this was already answered, but just a gentle reminder that you aren't going to submit your hours or timesheet to VISTA headquarters. That's all taken care of at your site. So if you're not sure on how to submit your hours, which I assume many of you probably aren't, because this is day one, but your supervisor will be the person to ask on that, and they'll be able to advise on how to submit your hours, whether on a weekly basis or however they have it set up. VISTA headquarters, we track the number of days you serve, but not the actual hours. And that also goes with your leave time. So you get 10 personal days and 10 medical days throughout your year of service. So if you request or submit leave time, that's through your supervisor, and not it's not something that you would submit in your My AmeriCorps account, for example. It's handled with your supervisor. And Caroline, yes, those are paid. Your personal days and your leave days are paid. Your living allowance amount is the daily amount will go for 365 days. Yep.
Yeah, and a few of you were asking about that oath form in My AmeriCorps. And just as a reminder, it's not visible yet, but after we end the webinar, those forms will unlock. At that time, you can log in. So if you're logged in now, you're going to log out. Otherwise, the form won't appear. So be logged out. After the webinar ends, go ahead and log back in. And you'll see it there on the left menu. It'll say My Oath Form. Just click it, fill out those few fields, and submit it. And please do it by 11:59 p.m. local time tonight, sooner if you can. And Chris, I didn't really see any other, I mean, there were some other very specific questions that related to a person's individual situation, but I didn't really see any other broad topics, but just want to check to see if you're noticing anything.
Yes, same, Andy. I don't at the moment. I just see those a couple of those very specific ones. But so yeah, I'll just, as a friendly reminder, if you have a question, or maybe you're mid typing a question, please by all means go ahead and continue to type it, submit it, and we'll continue on with these final few slides on the webinar. But we'll also continue to answer questions in the Q&A privately. Okay, well, great. Thank you for the questions and your participation today. We certainly hope today's discussion helped you build some new connections and clarify some of the complexity of starting your VISTA service. And of course, we hope it helped you know where to find information and where to find it quickly. And of course, we have sworn you in as official AmeriCorps VISTA members. So welcome to the VISTA team. And before we depart, we want to leave you with one more quote from President Johnson. This was also shared at the launch of the VISTA program. On your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. And to that, I would add that your service and your commitment to community change as an AmeriCorps VISTA gives me and us hope that our country can eliminate poverty and the injustices that cause and perpetuate it. thank you so much for serving as an AmeriCorps VISTA and for your participation today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Friendly reminder, the oath form should appear in about 15 minutes in your My AmeriCorps account. But yeah, we wish you all the success in the world this year. This will conclude today's webinar, and both Andy and I just want to, send a big thank you for your service.